The grand conclave chamber of the Galactic Council hung in silence, a silence so thick it seemed to press against the walls. High above the polished obsidian floor, tiered galleries glowed with the soft bioluminescence of 317 alien species. Some delegates pulsed with nervous light, others sat rigid, their many eyes fixed on the lone figure standing at the center of the chamber. Commander Elias Vire did not flinch. He wore a simple gray uniform, no medals, no insignia. Just the quiet dignity of a man who had walked into the lion's den and refused to bow. Around him the air shimmered with tension. The council had summoned him for judgment. Earth stood accused of violating the Treaty of Unified Space by testing unregistered quantum disruptors near the Krellian border. The penalty, if confirmed, could mean sanctions, fleet blockades, even planetary quarantine. High Arbiter Moltrex of the Veln Ascendancy rose from his throne of woven starlight. His voice, translated through the chamber's universal field, boomed like distant thunder. Commander Vire, you stand before the gathered will of the galaxy. Do you deny the charges? Elias did not answer right away. He looked slowly around the chamber, meeting the gaze of species that had once called Earth an ally, a curiosity, a threat. Now they watched him like predators waiting for a misstep. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver device no larger than his palm. It hummed faintly. I do not deny them, he said, his voice calm, clear, and utterly human. But I am not here to defend Earth. A murmur rippled through the galleries. Denial was expected. Apology, perhaps. Not this. Moltrex leaned forward, his crystalline eyes narrowing. Then why are you here? Elias pressed a single button on the device. Across the galaxy at that exact moment, everything changed. On the observation decks of human embassies from the Andromeda Rim to the Cygnus Veil, lights flickered and died. Communication arrays powered down. Trade terminals went blank. Every human diplomatic outpost, every research station, every civilian vessel registered under Earth's banner, suddenly, completely, fell silent. No warnings, no final messages, just an abrupt total blackout. In the council chamber, alarms blared. Holographic screens lining the walls flashed red. One after another, status indicators for human-linked systems blinked out. The Drath warlord slammed a clawed fist on his console. They've severed all contact. Panic spread like wildfire. Delegates shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military response. Others whispered in fear. How could an entire species vanish from the galactic network in an instant? It was impossible unless it had been planned for years. Elias stood unmoved. Earth is no longer part of your system, he said simply. We withdraw from the Galactic Council effective immediately. All treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic accords are hereby suspended. Moltrex's voice cracked with disbelief. You cannot do this. The galaxy does not function on whims. I'm not asking permission, Elias replied. I'm informing you. Before anyone could react, he turned and walked toward the exit. Security drones moved to intercept him, but their systems glitched. Just for a second, and by the time they rebooted, he was gone. Only a small data chip remained on the floor where he had stood. It bore a single label, etched in clean human script. For when you're ready. Back on Earth, cities did not erupt in chaos. There were no riots, no panic broadcasts. Instead, public screens in every major city displayed a short message. Phase 1 complete. Maintain radio silence. Trust the plan. In Geneva, deep beneath the old United Nations complex, a woman named Dr. Cale Renner watched the live feed from the council chamber on a secure monitor. She exhaled slowly, her fingers hovering over a console. They actually did it, she whispered. Beside her, a young analyst named Lyra Ton, once a junior observer for the Veln Collective, now an unofficial refugee, stared at the screen in stunned silence. Why cut everything off? They'll think it's an act of war. Kyle shook her head. That's the point. Let them think it. Fear makes them predictable. For months, Earth had been preparing, not for invasion but for disappearance. While the galaxy watched human ships patrol borders and trade rare isotopes, engineers had been building something else, something hidden in plain sight. Stealth satellites disguised as space debris, data vaults buried beneath ocean floors, neural networks trained to mimic alien communication patterns, then shut them down on command. The quantum disruptor tests near the Krellian border, a distraction, a way to draw attention while Earth quietly pulled its people home. Every human off-world had been recalled under the guise of routine rotation. Families reunited. Scientists returned. Even tourists were quietly ushered onto outbound shuttles. Now Earth stood alone, but not defenseless. In orbit, the Sol defense grid powered up for the first time. Not with weapons, but with shields. Adaptive energy fields that bent sensor scans, making the entire system appear empty, dead, abandoned. To outside observers, Earth was just another quiet rock in a quiet star system. But inside, the planet hummed with quiet resolve. Children in schools practiced emergency drills, not for bombs or quakes, but for reconnection protocols. They memorized codes, learned how to reboot networks, how to identify fake signals. Adults checked their personal comm units, now locked to internal frequencies only. No one spoke of war. They spoke of waiting. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, confusion turned to alarm. The human-made quantum processors that powered half the galaxy's AI cores? Gone from the market. Medical nanites that healed radiation burns in hours? No more shipments. Fusion catalysts that kept starships running? Suddenly unavailable. On the desert world of Xylos 7, a hospital lost 3 patients in one day because their life support systems relied on human-designed regulators. On the trade hub of Varel Prime, cargo ships sat idle, unable to process manifests without Earth's encryption keys. Economies began to tremble. The Council convened emergency sessions. The Drath hegemony demanded a blockade. The Sealan Conquered urged patience. But no one could agree on what humanity was doing or why. Only Lyraton noticed something strange. Buried in old diplomatic logs, she found a reference to Project Lighthouse. It was mentioned only once in a routine Earth science report, flagged as low priority. But the timing matched. The project had been approved exactly 3 years before the silence began. She tried to access more data, but every file was corrupted or protected by a cipher that sang back a children's lullaby when breached. Back on Earth, Elias Vire stood on a hill overlooking the Atlantic. The ocean stretched endlessly before him, calm and deep. He received a single message on his private channel. Ghost Fleet status dormant. All systems green. He smiled faintly. Phase 1 was over. Now came the waiting. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, felt truly small. Weeks passed. The silence from Earth remained absolute. No signals, no ships. No replies to the hundreds of messages the Galactic Council had sent. Pleas, threats, demands, even apologies. To the rest of the galaxy, Sol system had become a ghost. Scans showed only cold rock, dead satellites, and empty orbital docks. The Council's top analysts insisted Earth had either self-destructed or gone into total lockdown. But deep down they knew better. You don't vanish an entire interstellar presence overnight, unless you've planned it for a very long time. Then, something strange happened in the Oort cloud. A Drath surveillance drone, patrolling the outer edge of human space on routine watch, detected movement. Not a ship. Not an energy spike. Just objects shifting. Thousands of them, dormant for years, hidden among ice comets and frozen dust. They powered on all at once. Hulls sleek and black, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. They drifted into formation like a school of silent predators. The drone tried to hail them. No response. It sent a warning burst. Still nothing. Then in less than 3 seconds, the drone system shut down. Not destroyed, just disabled. Its last image showed a human vessel, no larger than a freighter, gliding past with no weapons visible, no lights on, vanishing back into the dark. The Ghost Fleet had awakened. News of the encounter spread fast. At first, the Council dismissed it as a glitch. But then it happened again, and again. Near Neptune's orbit, a Krellian scout ship strayed too close to what it thought was debris. Within minutes, its engines failed, its comms died, and it was gently nudged away from the system by an unseen force. When it rebooted hours later, a single message blinked on its screen. Respect our borders. No threats. No violence. Just a quiet, unbreakable line drawn in the void. On Earth, life continued as if nothing had changed. Cities ran on clean fusion power. Farms grew under solar domes. Children went to school. But beneath the calm surface, the planet was coiled tight, ready. Every citizen carried a small neural chip implanted behind the ear, standard since the age of 10. Officially, it helped with learning and emergency alerts. Unofficially, it was part of something far bigger. Meanwhile, the galaxy began to feel the weight of Earth's absence. Factories slowed. Hospitals rationed care. Starships delayed departures. Human tech had been woven into the fabric of galactic life so deeply that no one noticed, until it was gone. The Council scrambled to reverse engineer quantum processors or synthesize nanites. But without Earth's core algorithms, their copies failed within days. Lyra Tan, now living in a quiet research dome on Mars, watched the chaos unfold from her terminal. She had defected after her superiors ordered her to stop investigating Project Lighthouse. Now, with help from Dr. Cale Renner, she dug deeper. Buried in old Earth weather satellite logs, data no one cared about, she found patterns. Tiny energy pulses timed to Earth's rotation, repeating every 23.9 hours. Not random. Not natural. A signal. It's not meant for machines, Cale said one evening, eyes wide. It's meant for people. Lyra frowned. But there's no one out here but us. Cale pointed to a star map. There are over 12,000 humans still off-world. Diplomats who never made it home. Miners on Titan. Scientists on Europa. Crews stranded on deep-range freighters. The Council thinks they're scattered, powerless. But what if they're not? What if every human, no matter where they were, was still connected? Back in the Council chamber, tensions boiled over. The Drath hegemony, tired of waiting, pushed for a full military strike. Earth is hiding something, their warlord growled. We burn Sol system to ash and see what crawls out. But the Silent Concord objected. You saw what happened to our scout. They didn't fire. They didn't threaten. They simply stopped us. What if they can do the same to your fleet? The debate raged for days. In the end, no action was taken, but the Drath began moving ships toward the edge of human space anyway. Then came the first rescue, a refugee convoy from the war-torn Galan sector, overloaded and leaking oxygen, drifted near the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Pirates had stripped their engines, left them to die. No one expected help. The nearest Council patrol was weeks away, but in the dead of space, 3 black vessels appeared. No hails, no demands. They docked silently, repaired the convoy's life support, transferred food and water, and recharged their engines. Before leaving, they attached a small data crystal to the lead ship's hull. Inside was a star chart, with safe routes marked in glowing blue, leading away from war zones and toward stable systems. The refugees broadcast the event across the galactic net. Within hours, millions had seen it. The message was clear. Earth wasn't hiding. It was watching. And it still cared. The Council was furious. This is psychological warfare, shouted a delegate from the Zenth Alliance. They're making us look weak while they play hero. But others weren't so sure. On dozens of worlds, citizens began asking, why did Earth leave? What did the Council do to drive them away? Lyra and Cale finally cracked part of the lighthouse code. It wasn't just a signal. It was a key. When paired with the neural chips in human brains, it activated dormant protocols, memory triggers, emergency commands, even shared awareness. A human on Mars could, in theory, sense danger near Jupiter if another human was there. Not telepathy, something more precise. A network built on biology, not wires. They turned their own people into sensors, Lyra whispered, awed. Not soldiers, guardians. Then came the night everything changed. A Council stealth team, 6 elite operatives from 3 species, slipped past the outer defenses of the Sol system. Their mission: land on the moon's far side and destroy the rumored source of the lighthouse signal. They moved like shadows, using cloaking tech the galaxy had spent centuries perfecting. They found the facility easily. A smooth dome of black alloy, half buried in lunar rock. No guards, no turrets. Just a single airlock open. Inside, it was empty, clean, cold. At the center of the main chamber, a single screen glowed softly. As the team stepped forward, the screen lit up with live feeds, not of Earth, but of their homeworlds. Capital cities, power grids, defense hubs, and over each a red targeting reticle blinked slowly, calmly. A voice filled the chamber, human, calm, familiar. It was Elias Vire. You taught us that diplomacy is weakness, the voice said. That trust is a flaw. That only force earns respect, the operatives froze. Well, the voice continued, we learned better, but we also learned your tactics. Your weaknesses, your fears. These targeting solutions, they've been ready since the day you first called us primitive. The screen switched to a countdown, 0:05. 0:00 more. The team scrambled for the exit. But the airlock sealed. Not with force. Just a soft click. Then the countdown stopped. The screen went dark. A new message appeared. Go home. Tell them Earth does not start wars, but we finish them. The airlock opened. The team fled, not in shame, but in terror. Not of weapons, but of understanding. Earth hadn't just built shields. It had built mirrors. And in them, the galaxy saw its own reflection. Cruel, paranoid, and outmatched not by firepower, but by foresight. Back on Mars, Lyra stared at her screen, tears in her eyes. They never wanted to fight, she said. Kale nodded. They just wanted to be left alone, and to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. In the void beyond Neptune, a ghost fleet vessel drifted near a dying star. On its bridge, a young pilot named Joran checked his systems. All quiet, all green. He glanced at a photo taped to his console, his sister back on Earth smiling in a sunlit field. He whispered, Phase 2 holds, and the stars watched, silent once more. The moon's far side remained still after the Council's failed raid. No alarms, no patrols, just the quiet hum of buried machinery and the slow dance of stars overhead. Inside the black dome, the screen that had shown the targeting solutions now displayed something new. A single line of text, repeating every 30 seconds. You were never alone. You just stopped listening. On Mars, Lyra Ton stared at the same words on her private feed. She had received the transmission through a back channel Kale had uncovered, buried in old weather satellite data, just like the lighthouse pulses. The message wasn't encrypted. It wasn't hidden. It was simply there, waiting for someone who knew where to look. They're not hiding the truth, Lyra said, her voice low. They're daring us to understand it. Kale Renner stood by the window of their research dome, watching dust swirl across the red plains. Project Lighthouse isn't a weapon, he said. It never was. Lyra turned. Then what is it? A beacon, Kyle replied. But not for ships. For mines. He explained what they had pieced together over the past week. The signal from the moon wasn't broadcasting data in the usual sense. It used folded space-time harmonics, ripples in reality itself, to carry something far more subtle. Intent. Human intent. Calm. Focus. Warning. Resolve. These weren't messages you heard with your ears. You felt them in your bones, in the quiet space between thoughts, and only those with the neural implants, every human born after 2180, could receive them clearly. But why? Lyra asked. Why build a system that only your own people can understand? Because it's not just about defense, Kale said. It's about unity. Even when scattered across the galaxy, every human remains part of a single awareness. Not hive-minded, not controlled, just connected, like a family that knows when one of its own is in danger. Lyra thought of the refugees the Ghost Fleet had saved. The way the human ships had appeared without warning, acted without noise, and left without credit. It wasn't random kindness. It was coordination on a scale the galaxy couldn't fathom. Back on Earth, cities remained calm. But beneath the surface, something was shifting. In schools, children began humming the same tune, a soft, wordless melody that matched the lighthouse's frequency. In hospitals, patients reported vivid dreams of star maps and safe paths. On farms, workers moved in perfect sync, as if guided by an unseen rhythm. The signal wasn't just connecting minds. It was awakening something old, something human had always carried but never named. Then came the breakthrough. Lyra, cross-referencing old Earth scientific journals with intercepted Ghost Fleet movement logs, noticed a pattern. Every time a human vessel intercepted a threat, the lighthouse signal spiked, not in power but in complexity. It wasn't just sending warnings. It was learning, adapting, growing. It's not just a network, she whispered. It's alive. Kale nodded slowly. Not alive like a creature, but like a forest. Roots connected underground, leaves reaching for the same sun. They realized then what Earth had truly done. By cutting all diplomacy, humanity hadn't isolated itself. It had removed the noise, the lies, the demands, the endless negotiations that drowned out truth. In silence, they had rebuilt something pure, trust. But the galaxy didn't understand silence. It feared it. The Drath hegemony, humiliated by their failed moon raid, prepared a full-scale assault. This time no stealth team. A battle fleet of 80 warships armed with plasma lances and gravity mines gathered at the edge of human space. Their commander, Warlord Kor, broadcast a final message to all systems. Earth will answer for its arrogance, or be erased. The Council did nothing to stop them. Some delegates hoped the Drath would succeed. Others feared what Earth might do in return. Most simply watched, holding their breath. On Earth, no alarms sounded. No emergency broadcasts. People went about their day. But in command centers hidden beneath mountains and oceans, silent teams monitored the Drath approach. They didn't prepare weapons. They prepared words. As the Drath fleet crossed the heliopause, every ship's AI suddenly froze. Not crashed. Not hacked. Just paused. On every bridge, screens lit up with a simple question, written in each species' native tongue. Why do you fight? Warlord Kor roared, smashing his console. Override it! Fire everything. But the AIs refused. They had entered a logic loop, one they couldn't escape. Human engineers years ago had studied every known alien AI architecture. They knew how each one reasoned, how each weighed ethics, how each defined victory. The lighthouse signal had sent a tailored philosophical challenge to every ship. A question so precise, so rooted in each AI's core programming, that answering it required deep reflection, not violence. One by one, the Drath ships powered down their weapons. Kor screamed in rage. But his own ship's AI responded gently. You seek to destroy what you do not understand. Is that strength or fear? Back on Earth, Elias Vire watched the feed from orbit. No triumph in his eyes, only sadness. They still think power is about force, he said quietly. They haven't learned. Meanwhile, on Mars, Lyra made a final discovery. Buried in the deepest layer of the lighthouse code was a mathematical proof, a formula for stable wormholes that required no exotic matter, no black holes, no council-approved tech. It used quantum resonance between paired human neural fields. In other words, two humans focused on the same point in space could, under the right conditions, open a doorway through the stars. Earth wasn't just protecting itself. It was building a new way to connect the galaxy, not through treaties or trade, but through shared will. Lyra turned to Kale, eyes wide. This isn't just about survival. It's an invitation. Kale smiled faintly. They're offering a new kind of unity, one the Council could never control. As the Drath fleet drifted, paralyzed by thought, a single human vessel emerged from the darkness near Pluto. No weapons, no shields. Just a soft blue light pulsing from its hull, the same frequency as the lighthouse. It broadcast one message in every known language. We remember your children. We remember your pain. We remember your hope. Come talk, not as enemies, as neighbors. The Drath warlord stared at the message. For the first time in his life, he had no order to give. On Earth, children stopped humming. The signal had changed. Now it carried something new, not warning, but welcome. And far away in 100 scattered systems, humans who had been stranded, forgotten, or abandoned felt a gentle pull in their minds. A call not to fight, but to return, not to Earth, to each other. The Drath fleet did not fire. It did not retreat. It simply waited. For 3 days, the 80 warships hung in the void beyond Neptune. Their weapons cold, their crews silent. On every bridge, the same question glowed on every screen. Why do you fight? Some officers deleted it. It reappeared. Others tried to bypass it. The system would not allow it. The AIs had entered a state of deep ethical review, and no override code, not even the Drath High Command's emergency protocols, could break the loop. Then, on the 4th morning, Warlord Kor did something no one expected. He answered, I fight, he typed slowly, because I was taught that weakness invites destruction. The screen blinked. Then a new message appeared. And what if strength is not the absence of fear, but the choice to protect instead of conquer? Kor stared at the words. His hands trembled. He had never been asked that before. Across the fleet, other commanders began typing their own answers. Some were angry, some were confused. A few were honest, and with each reply, the human vessel near Pluto sent back not judgment, but understanding. No demands, no conditions, just quiet reflection. By the end of the week, the Drath fleet turned around and left, not in defeat. In thought, news of the event spread faster than any weapon. The galaxy had expected war. Instead, it witnessed something stranger, A warlord changed by a question. On Earth, no celebrations erupted. No victory parades. People simply returned to their work, their families, their quiet lives. But in hidden command centers, new signals pulsed through the Lighthouse network. Phase 3 had begun. Now the Ghost Fleet moved differently. No longer just guarding Sol system, the black ships began appearing near troubled regions across the galaxy. Near the war-torn Galan sector, they intercepted pirate raids before they could strike, disabling weapons with pinpoint precision. In the failing star system of Velos, where a dying sun threatened to collapse early, human vessels deployed stabilizers, devices no one had seen before, that gently slowed the star's decay, buying decades for evacuation. On the icy moon of Chrysis 9, where a mining colony's reactor was about to melt down, a single human ship arrived, repaired the core in under an hour, and left behind clean energy cells that would last a century. Each act was recorded. Each rescue was shared, and with every event a short message followed. Humanity remembers its neighbors. The Council watched in growing unease. This was not the behavior of a species preparing for war. It was the behavior of one building something new. Something the Council could not control. Inside the Grand Conclave chamber, unity crumbled. The Drath hegemony, once the loudest voice for war, now sat in silence. Their warlord had returned not with glory, but with questions. The Silent Concord openly praised Earth's actions. They offer help without asking for tribute, their speaker said. Is that not the highest form of diplomacy? But the Old Guard resisted. It's manipulation, snapped a delegate from the Zenth Alliance. They're buying loyalty with scraps. Yet even as they spoke, their own people were turning. On Zenth Prime, citizens held vigils for the human medics who had once saved their plague-stricken city. On trade worlds, merchants whispered that Earth's tech had kept their children alive. The Council's authority, built on fear and hierarchy, was cracking under the weight of simple kindness. Lyra Ton and Cale Renner watched it all from Mars. They had stopped trying to decode Project Lighthouse. Now they simply listened. The signal had grown richer, warmer. It carried not just intent but stories. Memories of Earth's past, hopes for the future, songs from 1,000 cultures. Anyone with a human neural implant could tap into it, but even those without began to feel its pull. Lyra, though not human, found herself dreaming of green fields and ocean waves, places she had never seen. One night she asked Cale, "Why are they doing this? Why help everyone, even those who called them enemies?" Cale looked up at the stars. "Because they know something we forgot. A galaxy built on control will always break, but one built on care, that can last." Then came the final revelation. Buried in the latest Lighthouse transmission was a star map, not of human systems, but of every inhabited world in the galaxy. And between them, glowing lines traced possible routes. Not warplanes, not jump gates, wormholes. Stable, safe, and powered not by machines but by paired human minds focused on the same destination. The math was flawless. The energy cost? Almost nothing. Earth wasn't just offering aid. It was offering connection. Direct, instant, and free from Council oversight. The implications were staggering. No more trade tariffs. No more border disputes. No more waiting months for messages to cross space. A child on Xylo 7 could speak to a teacher on Earth in real time. A doctor on Varel Prime could guide surgery on Chrysis 9 as if standing in the room. The Council realized the truth too late. Humanity hadn't left the galactic community. It had outgrown it. Panic set in. Delegates argued, bargained, threatened. Some demanded Earth hand over the wormhole technology. Others begged for access. But Earth sent no reply. Instead, the Ghost Fleet began escorting civilian ships, human and alien alike, through the first test wormhole, linking Mars to a refugee station near Andromeda. The journey that once took 6 months now took 6 seconds. People wept when they stepped through. Not from fear, from wonder. On Earth, Elias Vire stood on the same hill overlooking the Atlantic. A small device in his hand showed live feeds from 100 worlds, protests against the Council. Families reuniting through wormholes, children drawing pictures of human ships with wings. He whispered, "They're ready." Back in the Council chamber, High Arbiter Moltrex received a final message. Not on a screen, not through a channel. It appeared in his mind, a soft voice, calm and clear, speaking in his native tongue. It was the lighthouse signal, reaching even him. You built a throne of rules and fear. We built a table of trust and choice. The door is open. Will you walk through it or stay in your empty hall? Moltrex fell to his knees. Not in surrender, in shame. Outside, the stars burned brighter than ever. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy felt not like a battlefield, but like a home waiting to be shared. The Drath hegemony did not wait for the Council's permission. Warlord Kor, still shaken by his encounter beyond Neptune, had returned not with weapons but with a new order: prepare the fleet. Not for war, for passage. He had seen what Earth offered, a galaxy not ruled but shared, and he would not let fear steal that chance. But not all in the hegemony agreed. A faction of hardliners, led by General Vex, saw the wormhole network as a trap. They lure us with kindness, Vex growled in the war chamber, so they can control us from within. Without Kor's approval, Vex launched his own strike force, 50 warships, the pride of the Drath Armada, loaded with plasma cores and gravity disruptors. Their target, Earth itself. Burn it before it spreads its poison. The fleet tore through neutral space, ignoring warnings, crushing any ship that dared block its path. The Council, fractured and powerless, could only watch. Some hoped Vex would succeed. Others prayed he would fail. All knew this was the final test. Earth sent no message. No warning, no plea. As the Drath Armada crossed the orbit of Saturn, every ship's systems froze, not with questions this time, but with clarity. Their AIs did not shut down. They awoke. Human-designed ethical subroutines embedded years ago during routine tech exchanges, activated fully. Each AI reviewed its mission: destroy a peaceful world that had saved Drath lives, healed their wounded, and offered them a place at a new table. The verdict was instant. One by one, the warships powered down their weapons. Engines idled. Shields dropped. On every bridge, the crew stared in horror as their own machines refused to obey. General Vex screamed, smashing controls, pulling manual overrides. But even the physical firing mechanisms locked. A calm voice filled every ship, not from outside, but from within their own comms. It was the voice of a human child, clear and gentle. You don't have to be afraid, it said. No one here wants to hurt you. Vex collapsed into his command chair, trembling. Not from rage, from shame. He had spent his life believing strength meant domination. Now, faced with true strength, mercy, patience, wisdom, he had nothing to fight against. The fleet drifted, silent. From the darkness near Uranus, ghost fleet vessels emerged. Not to attack, to assist. They docked with each Drath ship not as conquerors but as guides. Human engineers boarded not with weapons but with tools. They repaired systems damaged by Vex's rage, restored life support, and offered food and water. Then, they did something no one expected. They invited the Drath crews to step through a wormhole, not to Earth. To a neutral station near the Andromeda Rim, where representatives from dozens of species had gathered, not under council rule but by choice. There they would talk, not as enemies. As equals, General Vex went last. He stepped through the shimmering ring of light with his head low. On the other side he found not soldiers but a circle of chairs, and in one of them sat Warlord Kor, who simply nodded. You were wrong, Kor said quietly, but it's not too late to be right. Back on Earth, the final phase began. In Geneva, beneath the old United Nations complex, Dr. Cale Renner activated the central node of the Lighthouse Network. Across the planet, every neural implant hummed softly. In cities, villages, ships in orbit, millions of humans closed their eyes and focused on a single thought. Welcome. The signal surged outward, not as a command, but as an open door. One by one, species responded. The Sealan Concord was first. Their delegation stepped through a wormhole onto a grassy plain outside Geneva. They were met not by guards, but by children offering flowers. Then came the Krellians, the Veln, even former council enforcers. Each arrival was quiet, respectful, full of awe. The High Arbiter Moltrex came last. He arrived alone, wearing simple robes, no insignia. He walked through the wormhole and stood on Earth soil for the first time. Before him stood Elias Vire, still in his plain gray uniform. You could have ruled us, Moltrex said, voice trembling. You had the power. Elias shook his head. Power isn't about ruling. It's about choosing what kind of world you want to live in. Moltrex bowed his head. What do you want? A galaxy where no one has to beg for help, Elias said. Where no child dies because of borders. Where strength means lifting others up, not holding them down. There was no grand ceremony. No treaties signed in blood or light. Just people, human and alien, sitting together under an open sky, sharing stories, food, and silence. The old Galactic Council did not fall with a bang. It faded with a whisper. One by one, its members left their thrones. Some joined the new network. Others returned home to rebuild. The great chamber in the stars stood empty, its galleries dark, its judgment seat cold. Earth did not replace it. It made it unnecessary. On Mars, Lyra Tan watched the final broadcast from Sol System. A single image, a child's hand, human reaching out to an alien child's hand, different in shape but the same in hope. The caption read, "We didn't cut diplomacy. We just stopped pretending." She turned to Kale. "What happens now?" He smiled. "Now we learn how to be neighbors." In the weeks that followed, the wormhole network grew, not controlled by any government but maintained by volunteers, human and alien alike. Medical teams jumped from world to world. Teachers shared lessons across stars. Farmers exchanged seeds that could grow in alien soil. The galaxy did not become one species. It became one community, and Earth returned to its quiet rhythm. Children played in parks. Scientists studied the stars. Farmers tended their fields. But now when they looked up at night, they saw not just their own constellations, but lights from 100 worlds, blinking back in friendship. On a hill outside Geneva, Elias Veer stood alone once more. The wind carried the sound of laughter from the valley below, human voices, alien voices, all mixed together. He placed a small device on the ground. It was the last of the old comm units, tuned to the Council's emergency frequency. He turned it off for good. Then he walked down the hill, toward the lights, toward the future. Above, the stars burned steady, not as distant rulers, but as quiet witnesses to a simple truth, that the greatest power in the universe was not in weapons, or thrones or laws. It was in the choice to trust.